Live presentation of CBC Sports. Winnipeg Stadium, home of the defending Grey Cup champion Bombers, who begin postseason defense of the Cup today against the Ottawa Rough Riders in the East semifinal. McMahon Stadium in Calgary, where the Stampeders will be at home to the BC Lions in the West semifinal. The playoffs begin, and the road to the Grey Cup continues. A year ago at BC Place, the Bombers gave Winnipeg its 10th Grey Cup championship. This year, as in last season, the defense has given the stars of the offense support enough to allow Winnipeg to host the East semifinal. 15 years ago, the Eastern Riders celebrated their 7th Cup at the expense of the Western Riders. Now they look to become only the third-place club to go all the way to a CFL title since 1936. In 1985 in Montreal, the BC Lions concluded a 21-year drought, winning their 2nd Grey Cup. Today's Lions have the most feared aerial attack in the CFL and the ability to score under any conditions. Like BC, Calgary teams have twice tasted Grey Cup success. Last time was 20 years ago. The Stampeders, with home field advantage for the semifinal, bid for a 2nd straight West final appearance. These 4 are 3 wins away from the Grey Cup. They take their first steps today on semifinal Sunday. Semi-final Sunday will be a test of football and the elements on the prairies and in the foothills of the Rockies in November. Welcome to Winnipeg, where the road to the Grey Cup ends in 2 weeks and where we start our playoff coverage today. As soon as the Bombers in Ottawa have rendered a decision in the East semifinal, we'll send you to Calgary, where the Stampeders and Lions are all set for the West semifinal. Because the Grey Cup is in Winnipeg, the city's weather has been an object of a lot of concern. We're happy to report today the temperature is headed in the right direction. It's going up. It's supposed to reach a balmy 2 below today. Next to Winnipeg's temperature, the reading in Calgary, where they're basking in a Chinook for the West semifinal, and Chris Cuthbert is standing by. Chris?
Scott, it was minus 20 here earlier this week with snow, so that temperature reading is certainly a welcome relief. They're billing this matchup as Air Wars, and why not? The best 2 quarterbacks in the league, Doug Flutie and Danny Barrett, are here. The best 2 wide receivers, Alan Pitts and Ray Alexander as well. These 2 teams provided us with 2 thrilling overtime matchups during the regular season, and a war of words this week that may mean the battle on the field will get rather intense this afternoon. It makes for an interesting Western semi from McMahon, but right now, let's go back to Winnipeg and Scotto.
And Chris, it's worth reporting that for this East semifinal game today, the Bombers and Rough Riders will have a regulation CFL field to play on, 110 yards to work with. The ice that diminished the field last week has been cleared away from the sidelines and the end zone. Bombers have been woefully inconsistent this year. The question is, will they be intense enough for this game today? And it should not be a problem for Tyrone Jones. The veteran linebacker went through his pregame ritual and addressed members of the opposition today. In the workout, he's been quoted as saying he plans on taking some shots at Reggie Barnes, the Ottawa running back who's playing with a flak jacket on. In the broadcast booth are Don Whitman and Joe Gillette.
Thank you, Scott. Hi, everybody. That lack of discipline has been an ongoing problem for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers this season, but that's another story, Joe. The story earlier this week appeared to be both teams without the leading rushers in the CFL. Robert Mims and Reggie Barnes were injured last week in the final regular season games, and there was concern whether or not either would be ready for this semifinal contest.
Yeah, the first and second rushers in the league, 2 very different style running backs. You see, Reggie Barnes is a guy who likes to rock in there. He likes to make his cuts, whereas Mims is the kind of a guy that likes to roll into the hole. He likes to weave in and out of linebackers. So both of them banged up a little bit, but this is a playoff game. There's no room for pain in this game.
The good news for both teams is that both will play this afternoon. This year there were 11 1,000-yard receivers in the CFL. None of those 11 wore the uniform of either Winnipeg or Ottawa, but this afternoon Rick House of the Blue Bombers, an outstanding slot back, does have an opportunity to set a playoff record.
Yeah, well, what Rick House does is he uses those linebackers coming inside on play-action pass to find an opening. He could break the record all-time for receiving in a playoff game.
Rick House has always been a favorite target of quarterback Tom Burgess, and Burgess will probably try and get him the ball again this afternoon. Scott?
Veteran Argonaut linebacker Don Moen has worked a couple of Grey Cup telecasts with us and hopes not to be available for the one 2 weeks hence, but joins us today as our semi-final game day analyst. Don, little to choose between Ottawa and Winnipeg. It's really hard to tell which of the two you'll meet in the East Final next week.
Two very evenly matched football teams, Scott, with similar styles. They really like to run the football, and as a linebacker, I can speak from personal experience that both pounding running backs on both teams, and I think the team that runs the ball the best today will win the game.
Which usually applies in cold weather. All right, Don, look forward to hearing from you on Live at the Half. Stay with us, everybody. The Bombers and Rough Riders are all set to decide which of the two gets to the East Final next week. The East semifinal kicks off when we come back to Winnipeg Stadium.
And now, please join
Weather and football have been a hot topic for the past couple of weeks, ever since an ice storm dumped a heavy coating on the field at Winnipeg Stadium, and the resultant drop in temperature. This afternoon, -5 degrees. The wind's out of the south, which indicates a warming trend is on the way, and hopefully that warming trend will prevail right through the 24th of November. Joe Ferraghelli yesterday said, the wind is to our advantage, the cold weather is to our advantage, snow is to our advantage, ice is to our advantage, the sun is to our advantage. At playoff time, he said it doesn't make any difference. You have to be ready to go regardless of the conditions. Darryl Rogers, the rookie head coach of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, echoed similar sentiments. And he said that the conditions today are vastly superior to what the team encountered last week in the final regular season game against the Edmonton Eskimos. Anthony Drawhorn takes the opening kickoff at the 10 as he tries to make a cut. He slips, and the Ottawa Rough Riders will be scrimmaging from their own 12-yard line.
It's a big break for Winnipeg. Anthony Drawhorn over 1,000 yards in kick returns this year, but he only gets about 2 yards in this important playoff game. Damon Allen is starting out on his own 12-yard line. Remember, Damon Allen has rushed for over 1,000 yards. So the defense has to respect Damon as an outside runner. They've got to respect Reggie Barnes as an inside runner. And Damon also can throw the football. 24 touchdowns.
But he also led the league in interceptions, having his passes picked off 31 times. Tom Burgess was number 2 in interceptions. The Winnipeg quarterback had 29 picked off. The opening pass is complete to Wilcox for a first down up at the 25-yard line. He made the catch in front of Bobby Evans.
You're going to see this a lot. This is Damon Allen crossing patterns, and what you're going to see is Wilcox, inside receiver. He'll be crossing, looking for that man-to-man coverage. That's the way Damon Allen attacks.
First and 10. The Rough Riders are at their own 25-yard line. Reggie Barnes is stopped right at the line of scrimmage. The first contact was made by linebacker James West.
Well, that's the key to what Winnipeg has to do. Greg Battle and James West have to control the inside running game, and Rod Hill, he's got to hold up over 2 fast receivers in Eddie Brown and Bobby Gordon.
Eddie Brown comes wide to the right, lining up against Rod Hill. Bobby Gordon is the wide receiver to the left side. Stephan Jones out of the lineup. Movement at the line of scrimmage. A high snap. Damon Allen couldn't pull it down, but there was movement at the line of scrimmage prior to the ball being snapped.
That's what we're going to see a lot of today. Joe Ferraghelli told us yesterday they do so much jumping around on the Winnipeg defense. They're going to go in a long count, sometimes up to 4.
Procedure is the call against Ottawa. That resulted in Tyrone Jones jumping. Dave Ewell, the referee this afternoon. And we are having some difficulties in picking up his announcement regarding the penalty. However, it was a procedure call against the Ottawa Roughriders, taking the ball back to the 19.
We should explain that 4 count. That means hut, 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 hut. That's 4.
Second and 15. Damon Allen faked inside. Now he's looking upfield. Can't find a receiver. Runs away from Greg Battle. And he should have the first down up to the 37-yard line, stopped by James West. But that's something that Damon Allen does so well. When he's in trouble, he can run the football.
You see Damon Allen coming out. It's a play fake to Reggie Barnes, and he can't find anybody open. Good, tight man-to-man coverage. Because they're downfield covering man-to-man, they can't come up and make the tackle, and a smooth run by Damon Allen.
Back to the live action. It's first and 10. Winnipeg indicating blitz. Ottawa picks it up, and Reggie Barnes has a big hole and another Ottawa first down, taking the ball to the 50-yard line. A 14-yard run for Reggie Barnes, and there was great concern throughout the week as to whether he would be ready for this Eastern semifinal.
Joe Faragelli told us yesterday, if we catch them in the inside linebacker blitz, that's just exactly what they did. They caught him with the inside backers going away from where Reggie Barnes ran the first down. First and 10 from the 50-yard line. Damon Allen fakes inside, heads the other way. Incomplete. He was looking on the sidelines for Bobby Gordon, but you see that the field is slippery. It is causing some difficulty on the opening kickoff. Anthony Drawhorn slipped and fell as he tried to cut. Bobby Gordon, in attempting to come back to the football, slipped over on the far side of the field as he was attempting to cut. Watch Bobby Gordon come up, and as he makes his break off that inside foot, it goes out from underneath him. It's really hard footing when they try to make a sharp break. They're going to have to make more controlled breaks when they're running their pass routes. Of course, the defense is suffering from the same problem. Jeff Smith into the ball game, replacing Wilcox at a slot back position on second and 10. Damon Allen on the quarterback draw, and he was caught by Quincy Williams. So after putting together a series of downs and taking the ball out to the 50-yard line after scrimmaging from their own 12, the Ottawa Roughriders are stopped at the 50. Gail Rogers said they had to do 2 things. They had to stop the run. They had to stop Reggie Barnes. And then second, they have to stop that play, the quarterback draw. That's one of their big priorities defensively. And they did it. Les Brown and Matt Pierce are back for this third down punt by Terry Baker. He had an outstanding year, averaging better than 43 yards per kick, but that is not a good punt by Baker. And it may be the result of pressure from Rod Hill. So the Winnipeg Blue Bombers will be first and 10 when we return. 10:58, the time remaining in the opening quarter. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers with their first offensive series from the 46-yard line after just a 16-yard kick by Terry Baker. No score. Winnipeg and Ottawa in this Eastern semifinal at Winnipeg Stadium. Burgess throwing down the sidelines for Streeter, and Streeter was bumping with Gordon as he went down the sidelines. It will be second and 10 Winnipeg. Tommy Burgess knew right away he wanted to go after Charles Gordon because of those interference calls last week against Toronto. Burgess has had less than 50% passing, but let's not forget, when Burgess is in the game, he does great in playoffs. He's done a heck of a job. He's been 5-0 in playoff competition. Burgess in the Saskatchewan Roughrider drive to the Grey Cup had an outstanding playoff performance against the Edmonton Eskimos in the Western Final. Then Kent Austin took over and did the job in the Grey Cup game. Inside pass, and it will result in a gain of about 7 yards, not enough for a first down. On the receiving end of the throw was Perry Tuttle, who has had a great deal of success against the Ottawa Roughriders this year. But it will be a third down punt for Bob Cameron. Interesting call on second and 10 to try to get a slant for 10 yards. You have to assume you're going to get a broken tackle in order to make that 10 yards. Bob Cameron averaging about 3 yards per punt less on average, and he just got that one away with Rob Prodanovic coming through almost untouched. Bobby Gordon on the return,
Barnes still bouncing and fighting his way for extra yardage, and he gets it out to the 23-yard line. That was a 44-yard punt by Bob Cameron. Right now, let's join Scott O.
Don, I think the real heroes of today's game could be the grounds crew at Winnipeg Stadium. The whole field was covered in ice this thick after a storm hit the city just under 2 weeks ago. They chipped away at it, they steamed it, and they raked it to get the field ready for today's game. As a result of a Herculean effort, the whole field is available for this East semifinal. You mentioned that the players are slipping, some losing traction. If they continue to do so, they may switch to these sort of shoes. They're broom ball shoes that give you traction through suction, and most players have these ready on the sidelines in case they need them. We should see a lot of players using them later in the day. Don?
Scott Flagel is the injured Ottawa Rough Rider, and this would be a big blow for the Rough Riders if Flagel was unable to continue. He was hurt in attempting to block on the punt return. You see him, number 14, and he takes a real shot from Alfred Payton.
It didn't look like Alfred Payton was trying to make the tackle. He just wanted a piece of Flagel. And that's exactly what he did. He went in there and really barreled into Flagel. There's a guy who's had 5 interceptions this year. Scott Flagel has had 3 sacks. I mean, that's talking pretty good football for a free safety, and he is the key to their defense. He'll disguise their coverages. They need him in there.
He had an interesting comment when Lance Chomik got the nominee as Outstanding Canadian Player in the East. Chomik this year is setting a scoring record in the CFL, of course, with 236 points. But Flagel was a little miffed when Chomik was nominated for the Eastern Award instead of himself, and he said it's like being traded for a box of tape to have a kicker beat you out for that award.
Flagel, he can kick anyway. You know, he's the guy, we see him in warm-ups. He's out here kicking himself, so maybe that box of tape was a carton of tape. But hey, Payton, he didn't go for the ball carrier. He went for Flagel.
Payton is the Winnipeg designated import today. He's a backup linebacker, and he plays on special teams. A rookie who was very impressive in training camp with Winnipeg this year. Statistically, these were the numbers these two teams posted during the course of the season. Not really much to choose, except in rushing yards, where the Ottawa Rough Riders had 2 1,000-yard rushers in Reggie Barnes and in quarterback Damon Allen. And Damon Allen, in compiling 1,036 rushing yards, established a league rushing record for quarterbacks. Winnipeg, the most penalized team in the league, and that has been a concern for Coach Darrell Rogers. Scott Flagel heads off to the Ottawa bench, looking a little groggy. Barnes misses the toss. The ball is still loose. Damon Allen got back to pick it up. Barnes missed the toss from Damon Allen as he attempted to stop and retreat. He slipped and fell, and Damon Allen had to pounce on that ball back at the 6-yard line.
That's the danger when you're getting a toss. You have a temptation to look at the hole. He wanted to do a cutback. He took his eyes off the football, and that's what made him drop it.
Damon Allen getting there just ahead of Winnipeg linebacker James West. They spot the ball actually at the 8-yard line. Draw play with Barnes. Barnes trying to get to the outside, and he'll be taken out of bounds by James West. Held up initially by halfback Darrell Sampson, and then James West finished the job.
James West made a big play on this. This is the counter play that they love to run so well, and they got a good lead block by Rob Smith. But Sampson and West came up and made him settle for about a 5-yard gain.
Terry Baker will be punting from his end zone. Pierce and Brown are back, waiting for this 3rd down kick. Darrell Rogers had an interesting comment yesterday about Winnipeg rushing those punts. He said we might as well because we don't have a return game that makes much of a difference. Winnipeg has not had success in punt returns this year or for a number of years. A 5-yard run back that time, and Winnipeg will have a 1st down at the 33.
Doesn't look like Scott Flagel will be in the lineup for a while. He's trying to get some steam, catch his steam or catch his breath, whichever you would choose. But that wind is playing havoc with Terry Baker's punch, and it is gusting.
Sean Footy has replaced Scott Flagel as the safety for the Ottawa Roughriders. Burgess throwing to the sidelines. He was looking for Eric Streeter, incomplete. Burgess has taken some heat in Winnipeg over the past few weeks on his performance.
He's taken some heat from John Kropke, too. He couldn't get that ball off. The guys who have to play well for Winnipeg, Mims has got to be his usual self. He's got to get that football upfield. But Perry Tuttle is the guy that Burgess will go to on the play action.
Larry Willis wide to the right. Streeter lines up to the left. Quickly inside, incomplete. He was looking for Warren Hudson.
That would have been Warren Hudson's 48th catch this year, and that's a lot of catches for a guy coming out of the backfield.
Warren Hudson had an outstanding playoff performance last year. He's recognized generally as perhaps one of the best blocking backs in the CFL. Troy Westwood will come into the game to attempt a field goal of 40 yards out of the hold of Bob Cameron. Westwood activated by Winnipeg following the injury to Trevor Kennard. The left footer puts it up, and it is good. 7:47 remaining in the opening quarter. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers on a Troy Westwood field goal are first on the board.
Well, the Ottawa Roughriders are in Winnipeg for the East semifinal, and their equipment is here as a bonus. Former Ottawa coach Bob Weber, who recently won a judgment of almost $100,000 against the Riders, has placed a lien on the equipment. There was a threat it would be seized before it was shipped to Winnipeg. The capes the Riders are wearing are another story. They have no crests or Ottawa markings on them. It's because they were purchased when the league was running the team. The concern was if the Riders folded, the capes could not be resold if they weren't plain. So that's how things were in Ottawa until private owners stepped in. I understand the Liebermans are planning to hire a seamstress to underline their commitment to keep the Riders alive and in Ottawa. Don?
Joe Farragelli wearing a jacket that has a Rough Rider emblem on the back. It's been an interesting year in the nation's capital regarding this football team. The ball comes loose as quarterback Damon Allen is hit at the 35-yard line, and Michael Gray recovers for Winnipeg. Greg Battle put the hit on quarterback Damon Allen, popping that ball loose, and Winnipeg's defensive unit, #1 in the league, has had an outstanding opening quarter here at Winnipeg Stadium in this Eastern semifinal.
Damon Allen comes out, and he sees Brian Hillebrun in front of him, and he should tell him, go, get downfield, block for me. Instead, he passes his blocker up, and what happens now is history. Greg Battle, boom, he knocks the ball loose, and Michael Gray always opportunistic.
First and 10, the ball at the 35-yard line. Burgess looking for a first down, going to the end zone for Streeter. He can't hang on. He had the ball momentarily. He thought he had it, but he took about one more step, and the ball did not stay with him.
Well, Burgess showed an awful lot of courage because he had three people coming in on him. He had a landslide. He took a hit from Patrick Wayne, John Kropke, and the thing that he had to do, he did. He put it right in there, but that was not a good reception. I mean, that ball was right into, and I think what happened to Streeter, he's looking to see where he is on the field. He was worried about being out of bounds. He dropped the ball. Good pass by Burgess. Hard hit by the Ottawa defense.
Second and 10, the ball at the 35-yard line. Rick House over the middle, incomplete. He was being covered by Daniel Hunter. Almost appeared to be a mix-up between Tom Burgess and his receiver, Rick House, on that pattern. So while the defense has done its job for Winnipeg, the offense has not been able to move the football.
Yeah, what Burgess saw was Anthony Drawhorn coming in on the halfback blitz from the weak side, and he had to throw it quick. Usually that's what Burgess does best. He picks up those blitzes and puts the ball out there. It was a mix-up. They didn't read it at the same time.
Westwood's previous field goal from 40 yards. This is from 2 yards further back. And again, he has the range and the accuracy. 6:32 remaining in the opening quarter. Trevor Kennard, who was replaced by Troy Westwood when he suffered a back injury, somewhat similar to the one that Reggie Barnes suffered last week against Toronto. watching this afternoon from the sideline. Scott?
Well, Don, to elaborate on Reggie Barnes, if he's in any pain, he's not admitting to it. I just asked him how he felt, and he said absolutely fine, no problem at all. And Scott Flagel is limbering up on the sidelines. He took a shot to the solar plexus, had the wind knocked out of him, but is ready to go back with the Ottawa defense when needed.
Of course, Scott Flagel started his CFL career with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, was subsequently traded to Calgary and then Hamilton, and finally wound up in Ottawa. David Conrad, the ball carrier, up close to the 40-yard line, stopped by nose guard Stan Nicholas.
Irv Damon did a good job of blocking. They moved him out, but David Conrad couldn't get through that linebacker blitz.
Winnipeg now with 6 defensive backs as nose guard Stan Nicholas comes out. Andrew Thomas comes in as a defensive back. Winnipeg showing blitz, and they stop the play right at the line of scrimmage. Alfred Payton made the tackle, and there are penalty flags on the play. Reggie Barnes was hit right at the line of scrimmage by Payton. Winnipeg will move the linebackers around, giving Damon Allen a lot of different looks with the 4 linebackers, and on that play, the 5 linebackers they had in there.
It's almost as though they said, let's run the ball and see if we can get a penalty out of this. And I think that's exactly what happened. They let those linebackers and all that enthusiasm. You got Tyrone Jones, James West. There's a big pileup, people pushing and shoving, and all of a sudden,
major foul, unnecessary roughness. Winnipeg number 5-8, first down.
The penalty against James West. And Winnipeg's lack of discipline costs the Blue Bombers again. Darryl Rogers was talking about this Winnipeg football team being extremely undisciplined. West is pleading his case, but it's too late, and his pleas fall on deaf ears as the penalty has been marched off against Winnipeg. So after stopping Ottawa on 2nd down, the Rough Riders, via the penalty, have it 1st and 10 at Winnipeg's 53. Almost intercepted. They were trying to set up the screen to David Conrad. It went off his pads and almost into the arms of Tyrone Jones.
Ty Jones had it right in his hands. It bounced out of David Conrad's hands, and Damon Allen has got to be shaking his head. He had 1 fumble. They've got 2 poor punts, and now he almost had an interception off a screen pass. And when they can intercept your screen passes, you're in trouble.
He had to dump that off as he was being pressured by Alfred Payton. Jeff Smith into the ball game. Gerald Wilcox out of the slot back position. 2nd and 10. Allen trying to set up. His pass is knocked down right at the line of scrimmage. It was deflected by Michael Gray. He was looking out into the flat for David Conrad, but Michael Gray knocked the pass down at the line of scrimmage.
Biggest thing that happened there was Damon Allen made sure that pass wasn't intercepted, because it looked like it was going to come down into the hands of Nicholas. I mean, watch Damon. After he throws that ball, they start to scramble. Ty Jones had another chance. He had his hands on it as well.
Pierce and Brown are back for the 3rd down punt by Terry Baker. He had a little problem handling the snap from center. The ball bounces back towards the line of scrimmage, and Les Brown gets it out to the 34-yard line, and then he's pushed back. 4:25 is the time remaining. That was a 27-yard kick by Terry Baker. The forecast today called for much stronger winds than currently exist. And as the afternoon progresses, the velocity of the winds could increase coming out of the south. And at the moment, the Ottawa Rough Riders are facing those winds, and that probably accounts for the poor punting average of Terry Baker. A 16-yard kick, a 26-yard kick, and a 27-yard kick. He is averaging 20 yards less in this game on 3 punts than he did during regular season play. 1st and 10, Winnipeg. The Bombers have not yet run the football. This is the first time that Robert Mims Perry's, the leading rusher in the CFL, takes it out to the 37-yard line. Mims this year had 10 games in which he ran for better than 100 yards.
They took advantage of Glenn Kalka coming down to the inside. If Patrick Wayne hadn't been there, that would have been a big gainer.
Willis goes wide to the right. Eric Streeter comes out to the left. Complete on the far side of the field to Larry Willis. He'll have a first down up at the 45-yard line. Andre Francis forced him out of bounds. And that's the first time today that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers have picked up a first down.
Credit Warren Hudson for getting a good block on Greg Steuben. He actually knocked him down. That gave Burgess a chance to get the ball outside.
Rob Crepo goes into the ball game. Rick House comes out. First and 10 Winnipeg from the 45-yard line. Pass for Eric Streeter. He can't catch up with it. He was being covered by Charles Gordon, and Gordon is probably still a little shell-shocked off the performance last week in the final regular season game against the Toronto Argonauts. David Williams caught 3 touchdown passes in that game, but Charles Gordon twice on what appeared to be good defensive plays was called for pass interference on David Williams.
And Joe Farragelli told him, hey son, you did a good job, don't let it bother you. Well, it's nice to be a quarterback, but not in this weather.
Second and 10 from the 45-yard line. Robert Mims, and he battles out across the 50 to the 51, stopped by Scott Flagel.
Big play by Scott Flagel. He stopped first down. That was a sure first down. The linebackers were already past Mims. As Mims makes his cut, the free safety, Scott Flagel, saved the first down.
Mims this year ran for 1,769 yards. Third best single season rushing performance in the CFL all time. And it is a team record, a Winnipeg team record. Bob Cameron's first punt under pressure from Rob Fredanovic traveled 44 yards. He is standing at his own 37-yard line. One man back, that's Drawhorn. An excellent kick by Cameron. Drawhorn retreats to his own 4. And he won't get outside of Michael Allen. A 55-yard punt by Bob Cameron, 3 yards on the return for Anthony Drawhorn.
Yeah, many times you see that great punt, and there's there's Lonnie Gleiberman and Bernie Gleiberman and Joanne Pollock wiping her brow. She's a little concerned. Didn't like the field position they've come up with at this situation.
They started the game at their own 12-yard line and put together a series of first downs, moving to the Winnipeg 50 before being forced to turn it over. Now they have it first and 10 from their own 7-yard line. Handoff to Reggie Barnes. Barnes inside to the 10-yard line. That will be a pickup of about 3 yards.
Joe Farragelli told us that the way they can gain yards is to put Irv Damon one-on-one on those nose tackles, because if Irv Damon can handle the nose tackle, you've got an opportunity now to get guards pulling, to fan block, to do all sorts of blocking adjustments. Good job, Irv Damon.
Paziano in at the nose guard position, replacing Stan Mikowicz. It's second and 7. Hand off to Reggie Barnes. Barnes cuts it back and should have the first down at the 18-yard line.
Excellent job of Barnes making the cut. And here's a guy with a broken back. It's all padded up. Watch him follow his blockers. Yellow Broom kicks out. Yellow Rinko kicks out. Now he takes it back up inside for a nice game.
David Conrad, who has had an outstanding season at the fullback position for the Ottawa Rough Riders, the lead blocker on the play, helping Reggie Barnes get through the hole. 1:09 is the time remaining in the opening quarter. It's Winnipeg 6, Ottawa nothing in this Eastern semifinal. The winner to advance to the Eastern final next Sunday at the Sky Dome in Toronto against the Argonauts.
Joe Farragelli's got a nice touch with his players. You know, when Reggie Barnes wanted to come back, he insisted on coming back for this game. It's playoff time.
Third down gamble by Ottawa. Damon Allen keeps. He only had a couple of inches to pick up a first down, and he has achieved that objective.
This is the plow effect, the earth movers. They're just driving through. They've got to get that extra yard, and Damon's one of the best at the quarterback sneak.
38 seconds remaining in the opening quarter. An important first down for the Rough Riders because they retained possession. Otherwise, they would have been kicking into the wind. Jones lined up at the line of scrimmage, tried to break through, but the Ottawa Rough Riders picked him up. Michael Gray made the tackle on Reggie Barnes, who has had a lot more work this afternoon than his Winnipeg counterpart Robert Mims. Reggie Barnes this year established an Ottawa club record for single-season rushing.
This is how to stop battle. When he comes in like this, I mean, how to stop Barnes. These guys are pulling out, and there's no place to go.
1,486 yards on the season for Reggie Barnes this afternoon. 7 carries so far for 30 yards. Damon Allen in trouble. Tyrone Jones came up the middle on the blitz on the final play of the opening quarter. And the Ottawa Rough Riders will be kicking when we... An overnight low of -19 in Winnipeg. The temperature has risen, obviously, since then under sunny skies, and the wind is not as strong as had been forecast. The Ottawa Rough Riders' Terry Baker is punting from his end zone on 3rd down. However, this time, he will have the wind at his back. Much better kick by Baker. It's taken by Les Brown at the 50-yard line. Les Brown gets a block. Cuts back inside. Only Baker can prevent him from scoring, and he does. Terry Baker made the tackle. Brown is downed at the 5-yard line. A 47-yard return by Les Brown after a 42-yard punt by Terry Baker. Winnipeg this year has not had success in punt returning, but Les Brown came up with a big one on this most recent Terry Baker kick.
Oh, he got some good blocking early, and he took off, and I can't but remember what Darryl Rogers told us. Oh, we're going to rush every punt because we're not very good on returns. Hey, Darryl, that's not bad.
He said our return game doesn't make any difference anyway. It certainly did on that play as Les Brown takes it down to the 5. On 1st down. Will they get to the end zone? Robert Mims is stopped, it appears, at the 1.
That was Matt Pierce that made such a great block that sprung Brown loose on that punt return. Good cut by Mims. He loves to roll into the hole. I mean, he's got such a smooth ability to make his break in or out.
Suffered a slight sprain of his ankle last week against the Edmonton Eskimos. Wanted to return for the second half. But Coach Darryl Rogers said, no, rest it, get ready for the semifinal, and Mims puts it in the end zone. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers taking advantage of a 47-yard punt return by Les Brown. 2 plays later, Robert Mims puts it in the end zone. Good block by Warren Hudson and Dave Van Conant to lead the way into scoring territory for Robert Mims.
Well, Mims knows this is playoff time. He's spinning and twisting and turning, and he's going to get into the end zone. Nobody will stop him. Look at the power in his legs. He drives in. It's like he's pushing the whole wall back, and now he spins in and turns it out. There it is. That's the last line, the goal line.
The point after by Westwood, and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers now have a 13-0 lead with 13:33 remaining in the first half. Robert Mims this year ran for 1,769 yards. He had hoped to take a shot at Willie Burton's league record of 1,896 yards established in 1975. But the field conditions in the final regular season game against Edmonton and the injury prevented him from finishing the ball game. Earl Lunsford, number 2 on the all-time list, 1,794 yards in 1961. And now Robert Mims is number 3 on the all-time single-season rushing list, 1 yard better than George George Reed had in 1965 for Saskatchewan. So Robert Mims has joined some rather select company.
Well, when you talk about the earthquake and a guy like Reed, that's some pretty good company, I'd say that. But Mims, I think, is a different kind of ball carrier. You have people who like to slam into tacklers. Mims doesn't do that. He rolls in or out of the hole, and he gives you a very small part of his body, and then he'll make a cut.
Bobby Gordon on the kickoff return, dodges one tackler, gets to the outside, and is forced out of bounds at about the 47-yard line. Right now, let's join Scott O.
All right, Don, Argonaut linebacker Don Moen is our game day analyst, watching patiently to see which of the two teams he'll face at the Skydome in the East Final next week. Winnipeg could be tough with a lead in this weather.
Defensively, they're looking really good so far, and Ottawa seems to be shooting themselves in the foot a lot. They just can't seem to hang on to the football, and this lead could be insurmountable now.
All right, Don, we'll talk to you on Live at the Half.
The Winnipeg Blue Bombers during regular season play yielded just 499 points, the best defensive record in the CFL. First and 10 from the 47. Damon Allen looking downfield over the head of Eddie Ray Brown. It will be second and 10, Ottawa. 13:04 remaining in the second quarter. Statistically, not much in the way of offense by either team. That punt return by Les Brown that set up the touchdown and the turnover, resulting in a Winnipeg field goal attempt. The keys to this football game.
That's playoff football. You get your veterans like Les Brown and give him a chance. Did a good job.
Second and 10. The ball is at the 47. Winnipeg leading by a score of 13-0. Damon Allen dodges a tackle, then is hauled down as he can't escape Greg Battle. It was James West initially who thought he was going to get a quarterback sack, went right over top of Damon Allen.
They didn't protect that backside linebacker coming in. That's really important to Damon Allen to get his backside protected. He can't see what's coming from that side, and West came right over the top, tried to lasso him. Damon ducked under him, but he couldn't get away from Greg Battle.
Terry Baker stands at his own 29-yard line. Les Brown and Matt Pierce are back. Good kick by Baker this time. It chases Les Brown all the way back to the 10-yard line. And Brown this time is stopped at the 19. That was a 55-yard punt, a 6-yard return. 12:20 remains in the half.
On Live at the Half today, we'll go to Calgary for a preview of the West semifinal. The game between the Lions and the Stampeders follows this one. We'll hear from Chris Cuthbert and some of the principals. And Argonaut linebacker Don Moen watching this game with more than a passing interest as our game day analyst. He'll be with us on Live at the Half, Don.
And Adam Rita, the coach of the Argos, is watching with interest back in Toronto. The pass intended for Rick House. It falls incomplete. It will be second and 10.
I think one of the things that Winnipeg is having a problem with is that they haven't been able to practice for 2 weeks outdoors where they can throw long passes like this. Just no completions. Timing is off a little bit. That's the result of not having to be able to practice. It's hard to throw a pass like that in the gym.
Rob Crepo into the ball game, replacing Rick House. And Rob Crepo today celebrating his 26th birthday, and he would like to celebrate with a victory. Handoff inside to Robert Mims. Mims ran away from Lloyd Lewis and got out to the 30-yard line, very close to a first down before being stopped by Glenn Colca. Lewis thought he had Mims stopped very close to the line of scrimmage, but Mims got that step on him, and away he went.
He's got an ability to turn sideways almost, to shake those tacklers, and then he made the extra yardage. They'll go for it even if he didn't get the first.
10 times this year, Robert Mims rushed for better than 100 yards. And it's a key to the success of the Winnipeg football team for Mims to have a 100-yard rushing game.
That gets that attention that they want to have those linebackers look at. They want to have the linebackers pay attention to their running back. Then they have play-action passing off of that. Burgess loves to go on play-action pass down the middle.
11:26 remaining in the half. 13-0 Winnipeg leading. A first down on the Robert Mims run. 5 carries for 27 yards so far this afternoon. Tom Burgess is upset. Good move by Patrick Wayne coming up from his linebacking position to take the feet out from under Winnipeg quarterback Tom Burgess.
A real good changeup, though. Normally they play a lot of blitzing, man-to-man tight. They dropped off in zone coverage. Now that's what all players love to get in front of. That's the heater. Reggie Barnes is getting ready to go back into the ball game.
2nd and 10 Winnipeg. Mims gets away from Lewis, but Lewis forced him back to where other Ottawa Rough Rider tacklers were waiting. John Kropke, Glenn Kulka, and Greg Stuman.
Angelo Snipes was talking to Patrick Wayne. He was telling him, hey, this is going to be a running play. Let's get ready. And they had Jeff Jackson coming up to give the pressure. So those linebackers are out of position. Angelo Snipes, Jeff Jackson, they're not in the same positions they normally play in because Brian Bonner's out of the lineup.
The first time this afternoon that Bob Cameron will be punting into the wind. Good kick by Cameron. There are many who feel he is the best kicker under adverse conditions in the CFL, and that was an excellent kick by Cameron, as Drawhorn had no opportunity for a return. It traveled 39 yards, and Michael Allen drove Drawhorn back. He lost 3 on the play. There is also a penalty flag.
Major foul, face mask, Winnipeg number 35, first down.
The face mask call against Tyrone Jones, so the Ottawa Rough Riders improve their field position as the ball comes up to the Winnipeg 53-yard line.
Well, that's an indication that Winnipeg has the most times penalized in the league. They're 8th. They're the most penalized team in the league. Now they get Ottawa at midfield.
1st and 10 for the Rough Riders from the 53. The toss. Sean Daniels is stopped at the 50-yard line by Greg Battle. Sean Daniels had been out of the lineup for a couple of games. He's back in action this afternoon for Ottawa.
There's Greg Battle as he shuffles over. Good linebackers keep their shoulders parallel, and then when they make those tackles, the back goes nowhere.
Kinsley Palmer and Sean Daniels the backs as Barnes is on the sidelines. A long pass. Did he make the catch? No. Brown holds it up to the official, indicating that he caught the football, but he did not. He was being covered by Rod Hill.
It was a bounce. It was a ground ball. He got a nice Academy Award for doing that. Eddie Brown has been complaining about not getting enough balls thrown to him. He's extremely fast. That ball was underthrown. He tried to come back for it. It's a grounder.
It slipped through his hands. He did a good job of scooping it up off the artificial turf as he went down, but he did not fool the officials. Brown and Pierce are back for the 3rd down kick by Terry Baker. Another good kick with the wind. And Pierce is going to let it bounce into the end zone. And it will roll through the end zone for a single point. There is also a penalty flag back at the 45-yard line. 13-1 is the score, depending upon the penalty on that big kick of 70 yards by Terry Baker. They haven't had any indication yet from referee Dave Ewell as to which team the penalty was against.
Play smart, guys. Come on now. Don't hurt ourselves.
Ewell conferring with other members of the officiating staff. He's talking with the back judge, Don Ellis, primarily. Rob Danovic eavesdropping.
We're having a board meeting. This is playoffs. They're taking it more serious.
Well, the fans are growing a little impatient, and so is Coach Darrell Rogers at the length of time required for the officials to sort this one out. And we still haven't had any verdict.
Hey, we've lost the guy that was wearing the siren.
Well, let's listen to referee Dave Ewell.
Major foul, face mask, Ottawa number 21. Objectionable conduct, number 10, Winnipeg. Single point. Penalties will be balanced at the 35-yard line.
That's Rod Hill's 10th objectionable conduct penalty this year.
He had 4 of them in the final regular season game against Edmonton.
You can take your cars to European vacations, and CFL players would if we were offering them, but darn it, the CBC is proud to offer to the winner of our return to sender competition a cheap trophy and a battery-operated shirt, and the winner is Saskatchewan's Willis J. Cox ahead of Gizmo Williams. Willis accumulated the most yardage on kickoff and punt returns. We lobbied for a civic holiday and a parade in Regina in the honor of Willis J. Cox, but they said no, in part because the winner took off home for Indiana before we could get a hold of him. So, folks, we're trying to get up enough money for postage, and we'll be sending to Willis via the mail this trophy and the battery-operated shirt with no return address on it. Back to you, Don.
That battery-operated shirt would go well with your jacket this afternoon, sir.
I think Willis J. Cox will be proud to receive the trophy, even though it is a little, but the shirt is another story.
Those were popular collector items at the 1976 Olympic Games in Montreal. I'm surprised you didn't manage to grab 2 or 3 before you left Montreal, Joe.
In 1976, I didn't even know where Montreal was.
On second down, the pass to Robert Mims. He got away from Snipes, loses the football, and the Ottawa Roughriders claim they have it, and the officials concur. Anthony Drawhorn came up with the football as Robert Mims, in trying to pick up additional yardage, had the ball knocked away from him, and the Ottawa Roughriders take over at their own 41-yard line.
What Burgess was trying to do is to pick on Angelo Snipes. He knew Snipes was man-to-man coverage on Mims, and Mims, that's his 40th reception this year. I mean, the guy can catch the football like a receiver, but didn't hold on to it here on the sideline. Good job by Snipes. He knocked it out.
Snipes got back into the play to knock it away, and this is Sean Daniels. He loses the ball. It's still loose. Les Brown has it. Robert Mims coughs it up. Ottawa recovers. Sean Daniels loses control. Les Brown recovers.
You got to cover all the points of the football. Sean Daniels had the ball out, and it popped loose. You got to control it with your ribs, with your forearm, and with your hand and elbow. That's all 4 points of the football. Good coaching point. Sean made a beautiful run. However, he fumbled the ball, and Les Brown was right there to pick it up.
Les Brown this year led the league in interceptions. In this game, he has made a most valuable contribution as a punt returner and in recovering the fumble. Brown had 10 interceptions during the course of the season. Darrell Sampson was the injured Winnipeg football player. He had been knocked down at midfield. However, he is up and walking off to the Winnipeg bench. It appears as though he was winded more than anything else. Winnipeg takes over, 1st and 10. The Blue Bombers at their own 44-yard line. 7:10 remaining in the half. 13-1. Winnipeg leads Ottawa. Burgess over the middle to Robert Mims. Mims is caught immediately at the 50-yard line.
Well, the game plan is this. Go deep against Charles Gordon and try to pick on those linebackers, Jeff Jackson, Angelo Snipes, and Patrick Wayne, who are really new together as a unit because Brian Bonner's not in there. Snipes had to move outside. Jeff Jackson's only played a few ball games as the middle linebacker.
Winnipeg during the course of the season has thrown frequently to the tailback and the fullback. Warren Hudson had 47 receptions this year. Robert Mims 39. Burgess throwing deep, looking for Perry Tuttle. It is intercepted. Daniel Hunter picks it off, and he is down at the 35-yard line. Lyle Bauer, the center field, to make the tackle with 6:12 remaining in the half. Ottawa takes over. Daniel Hunter, who had 3 interceptions during regular season play, picks off a Tom Burgess pass, and one of the reasons he was able to grab it, the pressure from Jackson coming up the middle. Jackson drops quarterback Tom Burgess, and downfield, Daniel Hunter doing an excellent job in defending against Perry Tuttle, making the interception. 1st and 10 Ottawa from the 35-yard line. Sean Daniels, the ball carrier, and he'll have a pickup of about 3 yards. Greg Battle and Quincy Williams combined to bring Daniels down. Now, Reggie Barnes started the football game for Ottawa. He has gone out in the 2nd quarter, and he has been replaced by Sean Daniels.
You can see Barnes adjusting that protective pad every play.
On 2nd down, Damon Allen dumping it off for Conrad. He was unable to make the catch. The Ottawa Roughriders are missing a number of key receivers in this afternoon's football game. Stefan Jones is out of the lineup. Jock Climie is out of the lineup. Stefan Jones with a hamstring problem last week against the Toronto Argonauts. Jock Climie injured an ankle. Jock Climie during the course of the season was able to start as both a slot back and a wide receiver for Ottawa.
And Brock Smith, that really makes 3 of their top receivers out of the lineup, so it's been a struggle for Damon Allen.
Pressure coming up the middle, and Terry Baker got it away just in time. Matt Pierce waits for it at the 25-yard line, and he is stopped at the 34. Brendan Rogers was the player who came up the middle pressuring punter Terry Baker. He got away a 47-yard kick with a 9-yard return by Matt Pierce. 5:04 is the time remaining in the half. Winnipeg leading Ottawa 13-1 in this Eastern semifinal. The winner will move on to take on the Ottawa Roughriders for the Eastern title next Sunday afternoon at Skydome.
Alfred Payton came roaring downfield again. He put Flagel out of the ball game. He tried to put Prodanovic out of the ball game on that one.
Robert Mims, the ball carrier, out to the 39-yard line.
Now Reggie Barnes, we saw him adjust his pad, that protective pad at the base of his back, and it looks like it isn't giving him the protection he needs, but he may be back in at halftime.
Jeff Jackson out of the ball game. Charles Wright in, and what appears to be an obvious passing situation. Tom Burgess will run and will get the first down at the 46, stopped by Charles Wright.
You know what Burgess just said? He said, hey, this is money games. This is playoff game. I'll run when it counts, and that's what he did. He's not known as a runner, but remember last year's final, he made the big run. This is a big run. It kept control of the football and kept control of the football game with almost 4 minutes to go, less than 4 minutes to go.
Chris Walby did a good job in picking up Greg Stuman, the rush end. 3:40 remaining in the half. First down, Winnipeg. The fake to Robert Mims. The pass complete to Warren Hudson. Winnipeg has another first down at the Ottawa 46. John Kropke stops Warren Hudson. A gain of 18 yards for the Winnipeg fullback.
Okay, this is the recipient of the screen pass. He fakes this way, and he comes back, gets the ball out to Warren Hudson, but the flow takes the defense out of the play. Look at the linebackers follow the flow. Nice game.
First and 10 Winnipeg as we swing back to the live action from the Ottawa 46. pass for Larry Willis, working against Andre Francis, and he steps out of bounds, very close to another first down. Willis put a good fake on Andre Francis to drive him deep, and he came back for the ball. 2:51 remains in the half. 2:51 remaining in the half. Winnipeg 1st and 10. The ball at the Ottawa 35-yard line. Larry Willis lines up wide right. Eric Streeter to the left. Grifo and Tuttle are the slot backs. Pressure on Burgess, and he is dropped for a loss by Charles Wright. Charles Wright, the designated import, blitzing from his halfback position and dropping Burgess for a loss back to the 47.
They put Charles Wright in as the weak linebacker, and nobody can pick him up. They're not expecting him to come. He comes from the outside, and he's got a sack.
Second and 22, Winnipeg, as Wright spills Burgess for a big loss of 12. Handoff to Robert Mims. He isn't going anywhere. Lloyd Lewis made the initial contact and then got some help from Glenn Colton. And the Ottawa Rough Riders, with that sack by Charles Wright and the tackle by Lloyd Lewis, may have taken Winnipeg out of field goal range. Immediately following this Eastern semifinal, they'll be going to McMahon Stadium in Calgary. Steve Armitage, Dan Kepley, and Chris Cuthbert standing by to describe the action between the BC Lions and Calgary Stampeders. We'll also be getting a report from McMahon Stadium during our halftime break. So join us for Live at the Half as we travel up to McMahon Stadium, among other things. Bob Cameron with his third down punt. Penalty flag on the play. Bob Gordon on the return, and he won't get much beyond the 25-yard line. But there's a penalty flag back at the line of scrimmage. A 32-yard punt that time by Bob Cameron, 10 yards on the return. A holding call, it appeared to be, against Scott Flagel. Scott Flagel appeared to be the player being held by the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. The indication from referee Dave Ewell was a holding call against Winnipeg.
Holding Winnipeg after the kick. Decline. First down.
Declined, that's interesting, but watch number 35, Tyrone Jones. He reaches out and grabs the face mask of Gordon. That's holding, I guess. That's one interpretation of holding.
Well, that's one that the officials missed. Tyrone Jones has had flags thrown today for other violations, but what appeared to be a face mask call against number 35 went undetected by the official. First and 10. The ball is at the 25-yard line. 1:54 remaining in the opening half. Damon Allen is under pressure. Gets away from Jones. Gets away from Quincy Williams, and then is forced out of bounds by Leon Hatziano.
Quincy Williams is really upset with himself. He thought he had Damon on a sack. And that shows you the athletic ability of Damon Allen, because he was more concerned with getting away from Tyrone Jones, and he just did it as an afterthought. Joe Faragelli knows what Damon Allen can do, and it's interesting. He's trying to get him to sprint out more. He told us yesterday he wanted him to sprint out more often. That was a drop-back pass. He got in trouble.
Winnipeg going to a 6 defensive back package now as Andrew Thomas comes in and Leon Hatziano goes out.
Second down.
Second and 12, Ottawa. From the backside, here comes Thomas. They pick him up. Deep throw over the middle, nowhere near the intended receiver, Gerald Wilcox. Thomas, who went in as the 6th defensive back, was blitzing. And he came from the backside, but Damon Allen got the pass away. And today, most of the football fans at Winnipeg Stadium are concerned about warmth rather than style or fashion. In Calgary, quite a contrast to what we are experiencing this afternoon at Winnipeg Stadium. 14 degrees the temperature at McMahon Stadium.
That's a Chinook, isn't it?
Les Brown takes the ball at his own 43-yard line, and he won't get any further than the 47 as Rob Prodanovic was downfield to make the tackle. Is that a fashion statement?
I would say. I kind of like that. It keeps them warm. But the sunglasses, what do you think of that?
While we have a moment, we should say hi to Chuck Watty, the #1 Rough Rider fan back in Ottawa. Jerry Elarenko says to pass along greetings, Chuck, from all members of the football team this afternoon. Fortunately, Chuck is in Riverside Hospital in Ottawa. Harry and the other members of the team wish you all the best. Robert Mims, the ball carrier, finding a hole and lugging the ball to the 37-yard line, stopped by Daniel Hunter.
Robert Mims took the football on a counter play. They had all of their receivers to the right, triple receivers to the right, and Mims came back on the counter play, got a nice block from David Black, and that sprung him loose. And look at him dance. I mean, he's feeling good now that he's out in the open. What sprained ankle, he said.
David Black in a starting guard position, replacing Bob Molly. Pressure from Charles Wright again. That's the second time he has caused problems for Tom Burgess. He spilled him earlier for a loss of 12 yards. 1:07 is the time remaining in the first half. Scott?
Well, Don, Robert Mims is gaining some ground for the Bombers. Now you wonder if his Ottawa counterpart, Reggie Barnes, is done for the day. Here's the information on him. I just asked him why he took himself out of the game after the Rough Riders' first offensive series of the second quarter. He said it's because his back, which is his trouble spot, has begun to tighten up. Mainly the result of the jarring effect of hitting this hard and almost frozen turf at Winnipeg Stadium. He did say he expects to return to this game in the second half when the Rough Riders really need him, and I think they really will need him, Don.
Well, the doctors had indicated that he could play today and would not do further damage to his back. He would have to play in pain. Robert Mims got much the same advice from the Winnipeg medical staff, but his injury was not as serious. He turned his ankle on the very slippery field at Winnipeg Stadium in the final regular season game against Edmonton. He tried to come back in the second half, but the coaching staff told him to stay on the bench, go to the dressing room, because they wanted him ready for the semifinal. But he has had some problems during the week in practice. However, playing with pain is something you often talk about and hear from players at playoff time in particular.
Oh, this is real man's football. I mean, the weather's cold, it stings when you get hit, and if you've got some kind of a bump or bruise, hey, forget it. This is playoffs. Watch for Rick House. He came over to the sidelines and talked with the coaches. I think he's telling them that he can get open. Expect Rick House to do something on this play.
Larry Willis is the injured Winnipeg Blue Bomber. Well, during Grey Cup week, we've got a lot of programming coming your way. GMC Player Awards on Thursday, November 21st, with Big Dan Gallagher as your host. Then on Saturday, November 23rd, we've got Sports Weekend, the Grey Cup Parade, leading up to the game itself on Sunday, November the 24th. Rob Crepo goes to the wide-out position, replacing Willis. Tom Burgess will try and run, but he can't get away from Greg Stuman.
Just as we thought Rick House was trying to run on the post cut, he actually was open, but Burgess didn't have enough protection to get that ball delivered to him. One of the things Burgess has done is he's not made the big mistake in this ball game particularly. Watch House now. They're working three receivers against those defensive backs, the nickel package. And he breaks on the post cut, and he's over top underneath Flagel. House is open, but they can't get him the ball.
So twice late in this second half, a blitz by Charles Wright has taken Winnipeg out of the field goal range of Troy Westwood. Bob Cameron's punt will hang up for Anthony Drawhorn. No question about the penalty flag call there, as Alfred Payton was well within inside that 5-yard area. A 29-yard punt by Bob Cameron with just 18 seconds remaining. Larry Willis signed by the Winnipeg Blue Bombers as a free agent this year. He started the season, had a big game, and then spent much of the time on the practice roster as he was not being used by Winnipeg. It has only been in the last couple of weeks that he has been a starter for the Blue Bombers. The first time these teams met back on August 2nd.
No yard. Winnipeg number 56. First down.
The no yards call against Payton. The first time these teams met on August 2nd, Larry Willis had a 104-yard pass reception touchdown against the Ottawa Rough Riders.
We do get those kinds of plays against Ottawa because they pressure so much. They're in the blitz so often, and they're man-to-man, and sometimes they'll give up a big play, but more often than not, they're in the quarterback's face, causing lots of problems.
Just 18 seconds remaining in the half. 13-1 is the score. Winnipeg leading Ottawa. First and 10. Damon Allen fakes inside. Looking downfield, he can't find a receiver. He'll try and run and has a first down up at the 46 with 10 seconds remaining. And Damon Allen is hurt. Battle took him heavily to the turf as he came down, but Damon Allen is going to stay in the ball game.
Well, with 18 seconds, you have to appreciate his courage, but well, he came right over top of his ankle, Greg Battle. You think most quarterbacks would just throw it down the field, try to get a big play. Not Damon.
This should be the final play of the first half. And Damon Allen this time runs it out of bounds, and that will end the first half. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers leading Ottawa 13-1.
Conditions have been a bit of a tester at Winnipeg Stadium, and through 30 minutes, it's the Bombers who have the passing grade. They lead by 12, and welcome to Live at the Half. West of us in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains, Calgary Stampeders are all set to host the BC Lions in our second game on semifinal Sunday, and in temperatures a good deal warmer than what we're working in here at Winnipeg Stadium. Let's go to Calgary now to hear from Chris Cuthbert.
Yes, Scott, we hate to gloat, but we've turned off the propane heaters, and we've broken out the suntan oil here as the temperature approaches 15 degrees Celsius. It could get even hotter on the field as well. These two teams have been trading insults all week long. The Lions say the Calgary Stampeder defense resorts to dirty tactics. The Stamps say that the Lions are just a bunch of crybabies who need pacifiers. Great playoff rhetoric. It's surprising because these two teams haven't met in the postseason in 12 years. The meeting in '79 was Calgary's last playoff win. A decade earlier, the Stamps also prevailed in the West semifinal. Last year, Calgary dropped its 6th straight playoff defeat to Edmonton in the Western Final. BC's last postseason appearance was 1988, vaulting from 3rd place to a Grey Cup loss against Winnipeg. There have been 4 meetings this year, Calgary winning 3 points the difference in 260 minutes of football. Calgary spoiled the Lions' home opener as Danny Barrett scored twice and hit Alan Pitts for another major. A month later at McMahon, it was overtime, and Andy McVay's second touchdown of the game gave Calgary a 2nd straight win. A week later, another tiebreaker, and the backbreaker this time was a 52-yard fumble return by Junior Thurman. The Thurminator and company stampeding the Lions for a 3rd straight win. But in their last meeting on October the 6th, the Fluties made winning a family affair as the Lions trounced the Stampeders 49-34.
Lions and the Stampeders have done all sorts of talking off the field this week, but coming up later today, they'll be deciding the issue on the field, and we'll go to Calgary for the West semifinal as soon as we've wrapped up things here at Winnipeg Stadium. Stay with us. Live at the Half continues in just a moment. Calgary, it's a sizzling 15 Celsius, but here in Winnipeg, the temperature's begun to drop because the sun's gone in, and it's now down to 6 below, but still within the enjoyment limits of the hardy folk who call Winnipeg home. And this game is all about who gets to meet Don Moen's Toronto Argonauts at Skydome next week. We welcome back our game day analyst, Argo linebacker Don Moen. And Don, I would think that if the Bombers keep getting the sort of defense in the first half, in the second half that they got in the first half, chances are you'll be preparing to play the Bombers next week.
Yeah, it certainly looks that way. When you look at the injury situation that the Ottawa Rough Riders are facing now and the dominance of the Winnipeg defense, it's going to be really, really tough for Ottawa to come out and win this football game in the second half.
What about Robert Mims? I was somewhat surprised the Bombers did not run him more in the first quarter of this game. They did lots, though, in the second quarter, and he took control. He's a player I would think that you would personally have to stop should this lead hold up and you meet the Bombers next week.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. I think statistics are showing over this season that anytime Robert Mims rushes for over 100 yards, the Winnipeg football team wins a lot of football games, and they've proven that against us and other teams in the past. So if it is Winnipeg that we play next week, we're going to focus very hard on Robert Mims.
Let's take some license here and suggest that you may be meeting Winnipeg. That's the likelihood now, given the lead they have in this weather. What is it like to play against Robert Mims? Is he one of the toughest backs in the league to stop?
Robert Mims is a great running back. He's a big running back, but he runs like a small running back, and that's what makes him so tough. He's got great moves, he's got great feet, and he catches the ball very, very well out of the backfield, so he's a multi-purpose back, and he can run over you if he has to.
And he has on many occasions. Not you personally, but a lot of defenders in the CFL, right? Okay, what about Reggie Barnes? Perhaps somewhat unrealistic to expect a guy to go the distance with a couple of broken bones in his lower back, and he had to take himself out of the game.
Yeah, hopefully when he gets into the locker room and gets things warmed up a little bit, he'll be able to come out in the second half and help the Ottawa Rough Riders. Without Reggie Barnes, I really don't think Ottawa has a chance in the second half. His running allows Damon Allen to do an awful lot of things, the play action passes, those types of things, run the football downfield. But without Reggie Barnes, it could be a long, long afternoon for the Ottawa Rough Riders.
Well, Reggie Barnes told me he will be back in the second half of this game, but with those broken bones, I'll be surprised if he is. If you were a member of the Riders, what sort of conversation would you be engaging in now in the locker room?
This is where your defense has to take over. This is where you come together as a defensive football team and say, we have to score on defense. We can't allow them to score any more points. We have to keep it close, and the defense has to take over.
Don, have you got a preference as to who you want to meet in the East Final?
The team that gets beat up the worst today. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter to me. They're both evenly matched football teams. They both offer the same type of problems to us. So it'll be whoever it is, we'll be looking forward to meeting them next week, and we'll expect a very, very tough football game.
Okay, Don, thanks for your time. And now we want to send you back to Calgary, where the BC Lions and Stampeders are getting all set for the West semifinal. And once again, here's Chris Cuthbert.
Scott, most of the BC Lions are behind me working out right now. I think they're in Vancouver with the temperature at about 15 degrees Celsius. They have won here at McMahon Stadium this year and are 7-2 on the road, while the Stampeders were 7-2 at home this season. With their thoughts, let's go upstairs and join Steve Armitage and Dan Kepley.
Thank you, Chris. It's a perfect day for passing here at McMahon Stadium, and we've got two of the best passers in the league in Doug Flutie and Danny Barrett. Doug Flutie did not have a great game against Hamilton. That may be bad news for the Stampeders.
Well, Steve, without a doubt, he's not happy with the performance that he had, nor the performance that the BC Lions did. Flutie was in charge of over 6,600 yards in passing offense this year. Unbelievable, unsurpassed in any league by anybody, anywhere. And he's got to get that on track today for the BC Lions to be successful.
Now, Danny Barrett is a different kind of passer for the Calgary Stampeders. He's a stay-at-home, likes to pass from the pocket.
Well, he's in the pocket. He's a conservative kind of guy. He reads defensively extremely well. His ratio of interceptions are 1 out of every 88 passes is intercepted by him. It's a great ratio, and it's a compliment to him of how well he conducts that offense of the Calgary Stampeders.
And one thing to keep in mind about Danny Barrett is that Danny Barrett played 3 times against the BC Lions this year, and he is 3-0 against the Lions. Chris?
All right, Steve, the winner of this will head north to Edmonton next week to meet the Eskimos, and our game day guest will be Eskimo head coach Ron Lancaster. Now, though, back to Winnipeg as we join Don Whitman and Joe Galat.
Thank you, Chris, and indeed it looks much more comfortable at McMahon Stadium than it is here at Winnipeg Stadium. Joe, do you think the cold weather is accounting for the lack of first-half offense?
Well, it looked like it early. They were slipping and sliding and all those kinds of things. But, hey, this nickel defense, the dime defense, there's too many defensive backs on the field. Someday they're going to have a quarter defense. They'll take all the linemen off the field. I don't think that's right.
Winnipeg has used a six-pack defensively in trying to prevent Damon Allen from completing his passes. He completed his very first pass of the ball game and hasn't hit on one since.
Well, he's scrambled a little bit, and maybe if he comes out the second half and does some scrambling, it looks like he's going to have to pick it up for Reggie Barnes not being in there. They could make it a game.
Darrell Rogers told us yesterday that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers would probably rush every third down punt because he said our punt return game really hasn't done anything all year anyway. And it was a punt return that set up Winnipeg's only touchdown.
A big play came over here. Matt Pierce sprung him loose, but downfield, a big block comes by Michael Allen, and Les Brown is going downtown. Almost scored if it hadn't been for Terry Baker's leg whip.
Terry Baker was able to bring down Les Brown on his punt return, and then 2 plays later, Robert Mims punched it into the end zone. Will we see more of Mims running the ball in the second half?
I think he'll give it a try. It looks like he's having trouble. I don't think so.
And Reggie Barnes will try and come back for the Ottawa Rough Riders in the second half. We'll be back after this. Thank you, Scott. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers kicking off to Ottawa to start the second half. So the Rough Riders in the third quarter will have both the wind and the ball. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers looking to have the football with the wind at their back in the fourth quarter. The Bombers leading by 12 points. 13-1 is the score as Troy Westwood prepares to kick off to start the second half of the football game. Westwood, a Winnipeg native who was activated by the Blue Bombers following the injury to Trevor Kennard. That occurred on the 14th of September in a 49-41 overtime victory, Winnipeg over the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Bobby Gordon takes the ball on the run at the 25-yard line, loses the football as he's upended. Winnipeg has recovered. Bobby Evans running for the end zone, being chased by Eddie Brown, but the play had been whistled dead. A 48-yard kickoff, an 18-yard return. So the Bombers get a key break to start the third quarter.
Well, what a break that was, too, because they had the ball on the 45-yard line, unfortunately fumbled. Now Bobby Evans thought he had the touchdown. And watch Gordon come in. He got hit, got upended. And Evans thought he could pick it up and go. Apparently the whistle had blown.
It certainly did not appear as though any member of the Rough Riders touched him when he grabbed the loose football, but the whistle had gone. Tom Burgess throws to the sidelines. The catch is made by Rick House. He'll be about 3 yards short of a first down. That's the first reception of the game for Rick House. Statistically, not much offense in the first half. 2 turnovers by both teams, but it was a punt return of 47 yards by Les Brown and a fumble recovery that led to a Winnipeg field goal that has resulted in 10 of Winnipeg's 13 points. Pass is complete for a first down to Matt Pierce as he grabbed the ball at the 32-yard line.
Well, there's one of the fans. Winnipeg, he's staying warm.
He should be warm. He's been getting a lot of heat from all parts of the country.
I knew you'd say that. Well, Burgess is getting the ball to the wideouts and to the backs, which he normally does.
Robert Mims, the ball carrier. And one of the reasons that play didn't work is Nick Benjamin was throwing right back into him. Benjamin was trying to block, and Patrick Wayne simply pushed Benjamin right back into the ball carrier.
Yeah, he rejected him. I mean, he actually just slam dunked him back into Mims, and Mims couldn't get around it. Watch Benjamin come out, and Patrick Wayne says, boom, that's a reject. And now Kolkas just comes in and makes an easy tackle. Now they're going for the football. Smart play. Go for that football when you're down 13 points, 12 points.
Second and 14 from the 37-yard line. Winnipeg has failed to convert. less than 50% of the time on second down, and they fail again as Larry Willis was being covered by Andre Francis, and Willis limped off the field on the sidelines. As a matter of fact, he is still down on the sidelines. You can just barely see him up against the stands on the west side of Winnipeg Stadium. He reached for his back as he went out of bounds. He was injured earlier in the first half, but has returned for the second half, but it doesn't look as though he will be coming back.
He hurt his back, and Greg Stuman pressured Burgess, so really he had to throw it faster than he wanted to. Now there's some movement on the line on the field goal attempt.
Westwood was attempting a 42-yard field goal, but penalty flags will take the Bombers perhaps out of field goal range because there's a procedure call, and it appeared to be Benjamin who was bobbing his head at the line of scrimmage. So as a result, rather than Westwood attempt a field goal, Bob Cameron comes in to punt.
They tried a sucker shift, I believe. They tried to get him to jump off sides, and that's not what happened. They got themselves in trouble instead. Now, instead of a field goal, they have to go for a punt.
Cameron stands at the midfield stripe. The onside. Get back up. Into the wind, another pretty good kick by Cameron. Bobby Gordon on the return, thrown down by Alfred Payton. So the Ottawa Rough Riders, with 12:05 remaining in the third quarter, will have the ball after that 27-yard punt. In 2 weeks' time, Winnipeg will indeed be the site of the Grey Cup game, and I think that group of fans would be prepared to party in any type of weather. Barnes back into the ball game. No running room. Paul Randolph and Tyrone Jones made the stop.
That's sort of a strange play because Barnes wasn't even in position where he could be a decoy for the football. I mean, he's way outside like he's a receiver. Damon's fairly even on his distribution. Hasn't gotten the ball to the slot backs, and Gerald Wilcox, that's the guy that they usually feature in the absence of their other receivers.
Damon Allen throwing deep for Wilcox. He can't catch up with it. He and Bobby Evans got tangled up. Evans went down as Wilcox attempted to make the cut, but Damon Allen missed him with the throw. You know, we've talked about Reggie Barnes and the problems he is having as a ball carrier because of that back injury. How about the effect it is having on his blocking?
I'm sure that he can't do the kind of blocking that he wants to do because that's a jar on his back, just like carrying the football.
11:12 remaining in the third quarter. 13-1 is the score. Good third down punt by Terry Baker. Les Brown takes it at his own 45. Les Brown gets a block and gets the football to the 50 of the Ottawa Rough Riders. Stopped there by Weber. The ball came loose. Ottawa claims they've got it. And there's pushing and shoving over on the far side of the field. That was a 42-yard kick and a 13-yard run back.
There, Gord Weber came up and made the hit. Watch Gord Weber come up. As he hits him, it looks like the ball came loose. But the officials, I believe, ruled that he was down, that the ground didn't make him fumble. It was loose before he hit the ground.
The Winnipeg Blue Bombers retain possession at the 50-yard line. Willis is back in for Winnipeg. He and Streeter are the wide receivers. Pass over the middle, and it is complete for a first down. Harry Tuttle made the catch at the 34-yard line.
Harry Tuttle has been the difference in the passing game when Winnipeg faces Ottawa. You saw Daniel Hunter get an interception in the first half. And Burgess has taken a hit nearly every time he throws the ball. Lloyd Lewis knocking him to the ground, the frozen ground.
And I'm not quite so sure about that catch by Perry Tuttle. However, it's too late to worry about it now, and Robert Mims, the ball carrier, has a gain of about 6, and there's a penalty flag on the play. Jackson and Chris Walby were going at it. Walby was trying to block on Jackson, and Jackson, in attempting to shed the block of Walby after the whistle had gone, was a little too zealous and draws a penalty, it would appear.
Major foul. Face mask. Ottawa number 42. First down.
I wouldn't be grabbing his face mask.
I wouldn't get too angry with Chris Walby. I mean, the guy is about 345 pounds, and he's a pretty strong guy, too. Watch the extemporaneous action after the play. There's Chris. Boom, he's down on the ground. He gets back up, says, ref, that was after the whistle. Jackson says, you pushed me after the whistle.
But there was no question that Jackson grabbed Walby by the face mask to throw him down, and that resulted in the penalty call, taking the ball to the 15-yard line. Winnipeg, the most penalized team during regular season play, and they have been penalized 6 times today. Robert Mims carrying the ball, and he'll get 3 yards before being stopped by Lloyd Lewis with help from Jackson.
Now, Chris Walby again had a little problem with Angelo Snipes. Chris Walby doesn't like linebackers. He said, I'll block a lineman because they're big and strong guys, but these little linebackers bother me. Get out of here. Watch he and Snipes go at it now. Linebackers don't like to be pushed, so Snipes will talk to him.
2nd and 7. Burgess swings it out to Robert Mims, looking for the end zone. He won't get there, but should have a first down. Stopped by Charles Gordon.
Charles Gordon saved the touchdown. Greg Stuman was in on pass coverage. I don't understand it. They had some sort of a blitz on, and they wanted Stuman to cover Mims out in the flat. He just didn't get there. Tough situation for Stuman. He's used to rushing the passer. He had to change with Jeff Jackson. Gordon saved the touchdown.
Robert Mims in all-purpose yards, 2,207 this year for Winnipeg. His 2nd touchdown of the day.
There is a flag down, and I think it's going to be holding against Greg Stuman.
Warren Hudson was the lead blocker, enabling Mims to get to the outside. The holding call is against Winnipeg, signals referee Dave Ewell.
They were holding Greg Stuman.
And Warren Hudson was guilty of the holding call. One of the reasons that Mims was able to get around that corner untouched.
Well, I would say that he was being held, but more around, he's being strangled, really. They had him around the throat. Watch 45. I mean, they got him by the throat, and they're choking him.
The ball comes back to the 12-yard line. 1st and goal, Winnipeg, from that point. Burgess throwing over the middle. Drawhorn indicates he intercepted. Perry Tuttle was assisting the official in waving it off. The pass was intended for Perry Tuttle. It will be 2nd and goal from the 12.
You see the ball coming in. Drawhorn claims he scooped it up. The referee's right on top of it. He said, no, you didn't.
Burgess trying to get away from Lloyd Lewis. He succeeds. Can he find a receiver? Into the corner of the end zone, incomplete. He was trying to hit Rob Creeple. He was being covered by Andre Francis.
Well, you got to give their defense an awful lot of credit, because Ottawa was in a 1st and goal on about the 2-yard line, and now they've come up with some really big plays, put some pressure on people. Snipes right there next to Burgess. Burgess had to get rid of it.
Even had Crepo made the catch, he would have been out of bounds anyway. Penalty against Warren Hudson for holding Greg Stuman proves costly. It negates a Winnipeg touchdown, and now on third down, field goal attempt by Troy Westwood is successful.
Cold at Winnipeg Stadium. Certainly not cold enough for offensive lineman Chris Walby to wear long sleeves. Doesn't matter how cold it is here at the stadium. I've never seen him wear long sleeves. And players in this team marvel at how first those tree trunk arms turn black, then they turn purple, and by the end of the game they're a nice shade of pink. And there's the temperature in Winnipeg. You can see with the sun having gone in, it's falling slightly, but certainly not cold enough to make it uncomfortable for the short sleeve players like Walby, James West, and several others. Don?
Bobby Gordon on the kickoff return. Good tackle by Alfred Payton. He has played very well on special teams today for the Blue Bombers.
Alfred Payton has been a great special teams player. He's made some key blocks. He put Flagel out of the game early, and good coverage. He's been down on almost every kick and punt. He's a factor. He's a force on those special teams.
22,799 watching the action this afternoon at Winnipeg Stadium. Wherever you're looking in, we hope you're enjoying this Eastern semifinal, and will stay with us for the upcoming Western semifinal from McMahon Stadium. Steve Armitage, Dan Kepley, and Chris Cuthbert are on hand to describe the action immediately following this game between the BC Lions and the Calgary Stampeders.
There's an Ottawa fan way back in there. See that Rough Rider helmet?
In the third quarter, the Rough Riders have the wind advantage, but Winnipeg has taken a lot of time off the clock, 6 minutes and 35 seconds, and they have scored the only point so far of the second half. Reggie Barnes on first down, Gerald Wilcox taking the pass on second down for what appears to be an Ottawa first down. He was tackled by Bobby Evans.
I think Damon Allen would like to go on a long count. He's having problems with his own team. The slots are jumping around, but he delivers the football here. That's a wide side of the field throw, just enough for the first down.
First and 10, Ottawa. The Rough Riders at the 54-yard line. No chance for Reggie Barnes. He was tackled immediately by Michael Gray. Tyrone Jones, from his linebacking position, made the initial contact with Reggie Barnes, and then Michael Gray finished the job. And Coach Darrell Rogers was saying yesterday that Michael Jones really doesn't get the recognition he deserves.
Michael Gray is a good force, but Ty Jones squeezed the play. That's how to stop the counterplay. Come right tight upfield. He'll stop the counterplay. Michael Gray was there.
James West drops Damon Allen back at the 37-yard line.
This looks like the Winnipeg defense we've seen the last couple years. I mean, they are swarming. They're getting around the ball, and you know what they're doing? They're firing each other up. They're talking a lot of encouragement to each other. And James West is a talker, but he's a doer. And watch him come upfield. He does a nice job here of pressuring the quarterback right in his face where he can't see downfield. Then he makes the tackle. James Wild West.
Third down punt by Terry Baker. Les Brown waits for it. Gets a block from Pierce, comes up the middle. The Ottawa Rough Riders trying to strip the football from his arms. Angelo Snipes and Kensley Palmer made the tackle, a 14-yard return after a 43-yard punt.
Well, these fans know it's playoff time, and they also know they'd like to come back here in 2 weeks and see this same team playing in the Grey Cup. And it could happen.
Well, the winner of this game has another obstacle to hurdle before thinking about the Grey Cup game, and that is the Toronto Argonauts, the Eastern champions. Next Sunday afternoon at the Skydome, we'll have the game for you on CBC television. The winner will go against the Argos. 4:40 remaining in the third quarter. Winnipeg leading 16-1. Robert Mims runs into a pileup, but manages to break loose and get up to about the 46-yard line before being driven back. 1 o'clock Eastern Time on Sunday, November 24th, 2 weeks from today. The 79th Grey Cup game will come your way from Winnipeg Stadium, the first time the game has ever been held in Winnipeg.
Well, that ball came loose, but I heard a whistle.
And I think Robert Mims got it back. The pass for Rick House. He dives for it in front of Daniel Hunter, but can't make the catch up at midfield.
Rick's really frustrated. So is Burgess. He wanted to get the ball to House. He was clean on the break. It was a nice pass route. Burgess is getting more pressure than we've seen him get in a few weeks, and I think that's affected him. It's affected his throwing.
This game has certainly not produced the offensive numbers we were accustomed to seeing during most regular season CFL encounters, and I'm sure the cold conditions have played a role this afternoon at Winnipeg Stadium. Cameron's kick hangs up in the wind and bounces out of bounds around the 50-yard line. 3:37 is the time remaining in the third quarter. It will be Ottawa 1st and 10 when we return. Immediately following this game, we'll be going to McMahon Stadium in Calgary for the Western semifinal, the BC Lions and the Calgary Stampeders. A doubleheader Sunday on CBC television, and we'll have another doubleheader for you next Sunday. The Eastern final immediately followed by the Western final. Reggie Barnes can't get to the outside as James West makes the tackle.
Well, that's the Winnipeg defense that you've seen be so successful the last 3 years or more. And James West, he's holding his hand up to his ear. He wants to hear it from the crowd. He ruined the play by coming upfield. Reggie Barnes probably affected a little bit by that bad back. Didn't go inside. He tried to break it outside.
James West, 34 years of age, but he has indicated he would like to be back again next year. He has no thoughts about retiring. Eddie Brown makes a big catch, hauled down by Rod Hill, but that's a key first down for the Ottawa Rough Riders at the 40-yard line. A 22-yard pickup, Damon Allen to Eddie Brown.
Impressive pass protection, and what Damon looked for was the inside receivers going deep, going down the seam, and he got a chance for Eddie Brown.
If Ottawa hopes to advance to the Eastern final, I think it's vital that they score in this third quarter with the wind at their back. Handoff to Reggie Barnes. Tyrone Jones got a piece of him. So did Greg Battle. He'll pick up about 3, maybe 4 yards.
This is the drive for Ottawa. They've got to score. They've got the win. They've got 2 minutes to go in this half. They've got to get down and get some points if they want to make it a ball game.
1:57 remaining in the third quarter. 2nd and 7, Ottawa. Allen steps up into the pocket, throws intended for James Ellingson, incomplete.
Oh, that was a great play by Darrell Sampson. He just got a piece of that ball, but that's that seam pattern that we knew we would see. Joe Faragelli told us yesterday they're going to break those seams, and he did. He had a chance for it. Darrell Sampson came right over the top. He said, I used to do that back at York University. Just knock those balls down, not let them catch them.
Terry Baker will be attempting a field goal of 45 yards. Of 18 in field goal tries outside the 40-yard line this year. It goes wide in the end zone. Eric Streeter indicated he was going to concede a single point. Takes a few more seconds off the clock before running out of bounds, but there is a penalty flag at the line of scrimmage.
Well, Michael Gray was having some words in there with Rob Smith.
Little wonder Michael Gray gets little recognition. Earlier when I was talking about him, I called him Michael Jones.
Well, Michael Gray is one of those guys, nobody hears much about him till he gets a fumble recovery, till he gets a sack, but he's a steady ball player, very consistent.
Looks as though the penalty is against Winnipeg. The rough play apparently occurred after the single point. Do you think the squirrels are loose in his silo? Let's bring in Scott O.
Don, Argonaut linebacker Don Moen, our game day analyst, now starting to think very seriously in terms of preparing for Winnipeg in the East Final next week. Is that a fair statement?
It's getting fairer all the time. Winnipeg's controlled the ball here in the third quarter against the wind. They're going to get the wind in the fourth quarter, and they're coming home with the lead. It's a very, very comfortable position to be in.
And you'll think a lot this week about Robert Mims, correct?
Yeah, that's going to be the key to us beating Winnipeg, is we have to contain and control Robert Mims.
All right, we won't forget, though, that there's still a quarter of football to play, and something could happen.
It's never over till it's over, and Damon Allen has done some big things in the past. He's going to have to take it mainly on his shoulders, because I think Reggie Barnes is really hurting out there.
I forgot to tell you, cliches are banned in this program. It's never over till it's over is against the rules.
I think I just made that up, didn't I?
Okay, back to you, Don.
Don Moen and the Toronto Argonauts awaiting a winner this afternoon at Winnipeg Stadium for next Sunday's Eastern Final.
I heard it was never over until the ball's in Doug Flutie's hands.
Robert Mims doing an excellent job of picking his way through the line, and he will be close to another first down Winnipeg with just 42 seconds remaining in the third quarter.
Well, that's an excellent run, and that's what they need right now. They need somebody to control the ball game. And when Burgess gives the ball to Mims, he makes a great cut to the inside. Flagel misses, and now he runs with people hanging on to him.
And the spot of the ball does give Winnipeg a first down at the 33-yard line. The toss to Robert Mims. Nick Benjamin is out front blocking. Mims cuts back to the 40-yard line. Stopped by Patrick Wayne. 7 seconds remaining in the third quarter. 16-2 is the score. Will it be Ottawa or Winnipeg advancing to the Eastern Final next Sunday at the Skydome against the Toronto Argonauts? We'll have the game for you at 1:30 Eastern Time, and we'll have the Western Final from Commonwealth Stadium, the Edmonton Eskimos against either Calgary or BC. They'll determine the Western finalists this afternoon, immediately following this game. Lloyd Lewis put a hit on Robert Mims on the final play of the third quarter. So when we return, it will be 3rd and 6, Winnipeg. We start the fourth quarter with Bob Cameron punting from his own 23-yard line. Anthony Drawhorn takes it at the 30, gets a block, gets to the outside. Look out. Forced out of bounds by James West, but not before he returned it all the way to the Winnipeg 37. A 42-yard return after a 43-yard kick.
You've got to give Anthony Drawhorn all kinds of credit. This guy does everything. I mean, he returns punts, he returns kicks. He's had 1,600 yards, and then he gets interceptions, and he had 16 knockdowns of the ball, but this is a big play for Ottawa. Their best play of the whole game.
The Rough Riders needed something to give them a lift. Can they capitalize? The pass is complete over the middle. James Ellingson gives the Rough Riders a first down at the Winnipeg 24-yard line, stopped by Andrew Thomas.
We don't see Damon going outside as much as we expected, but he threaded the needle on that one, put it right between the backers, and when those linebackers are blitzing, then there's more cavity between them. That's what Damon Allen exploited.
Winnipeg predominantly a man coverage team. First and 10, the fake to Barnes. Damon Allen trying to get outside. It's knocked down by Bobby Evans. It was intended for Gerald Wilcox.
Big mix-up on that play. Barnes went the wrong way. He was supposed to fake the counter coming back to the short side.
Winnipeg has the edge statistically. The Bombers also lead the football game. 16-2 is the score in Winnipeg's favor. 13:47 remaining in the football game.
Coach Faragelli is ready for some points now. He says it's time to score.
2nd and 10. Allen throwing deep. It's intercepted. Les Brown leads the league in interceptions. Goes up to take it away from Bobby Gordon.
That ball was slightly underthrown. That gave Les Brown a chance to come back in on the pass. It looked like a sure touchdown. It's a post corner cut. It hung up just a little bit too much. Bobby Gordon's backing away. Didn't expect the ball to be underthrown. Watch Les Brown. He played the ball perfectly. Came out of nowhere to pick that ball off. Les Brown has been a player in this football game. I mean, we talked about Anthony Drawhorn. Les Brown's done some good things as well.
His 47-yard punt return set up the game's only touchdown. And now the Winnipeg Blue Bombers have the football at the 30-yard line. Robert Mims picking up about 5 before being stopped by Glenn Kulka.
Joe Faragelli saying, my defense is doing a good job. They're doing what we expected them to do. They gave up 1 touchdown. We got to be able to win this ball game by scoring some points.
Those 4 turnovers have been an important factor in the 16 points the Winnipeg Blue Bombers have scored thus far. They are looking at 2nd and 5 from the 30-yard line. Pass to the sidelines for Larry Willis, but he was out of bounds, so Winnipeg will be forced to send out the punting unit. Winnipeg and Ottawa, you know, have never met in playoff action other than a Grey Cup game, and the last Grey Cup game they played in was 50 years ago when Winnipeg beat Ottawa by a score of 18-16.
Well, Damon's got to get him back in this ball game, but if he does, he can credit Charles Wright, who put really tough pressure on Burgess. Wright, the nickel back, came up, made Burgess throw that ball short. Damon Allen's going to get the ball in pretty good field position.
Drawhorn at the 40 fumbles the football. I'm not sure, but I think they were looking at possible reverse. Drawhorn giving it to Bobby Gordon, but he fumbled the ball and got it back at the 40. You're looking live at Doug Flutie at McMahon Stadium in Calgary as the BC Lion quarterback warms up for his semifinal appearance against Danny Barrett and the Calgary Stampeders. Weather conditions in Calgary at McMahon Stadium much better than here at Winnipeg, and we'll be switching there for the Western semifinal immediately upon the conclusion of this game. Reggie Barnes, the ball carrier, stopped by linebacker Greg Battle right at the line of scrimmage. The BC Lions at Calgary immediately following the Eastern semifinal here at Winnipeg Stadium. The Blue Bombers leading Ottawa 16-2 with 11:40 remaining in the ballgame.
Ty Jones came upfield so hard and so tight, there was no room for that counter play.
2nd and 11. Penalty flag. Damon Allen gets the pass away to David Conrad. The penalty flag was thrown prior to Damon Allen throwing the pass. Holding is the call against Ottawa.
Holding, Ottawa number 61, decline, 3rd down.
When you see a holding call, there's nothing more clearly defined than this one. Brian Illebroon, he actually takes a pancake flip over, throwing Michael Gray down to the ground. That's holding.
And because David Conrad did not pick up a 1st down, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers declined the penalty. Terry Baker on 3rd down from the 30. Will he kick it? Or will the Ottawa Rough Riders do a little gambling with only 11:07 remaining? Yes, he's going to try. No, he's going to kick it. It's blocked. It looked initially as though he was going to try and throw. The man downfield, Charles Gordon, appeared to be covered, and that may have resulted in Terry Baker changing his mind, and by that time it was too late.
I think he's got the option. You see this happen frequently. He has the option to do what he wants to do. If he sees him open, he's allowed to throw the football. He started to throw it, said, I'm going to try to kick it. But, hey, it's a little late then. You only get time for one decision, not two decisions in that situation. He's going to throw it, and then he said, oh, no, I better kick it. And Rod Hill is right there on top of him. That's a big turnover. That's the 5th turnover.
It's not surprising that Rod Hill should block it because he shares the league lead in that department. Rick House on the receiving end of the pass and on the receiving end of a punishing hit from Scott Flagel, but he managed to hang on to the football.
Hey, here's two guys that know each other. I mean, they're friends. How would you like to have Flagel be your enemy if you hit your friends like this? Wow, I mean, he let him have it.
First down, Winnipeg. The ball is at the 25-yard line. Burgess runs to the 20.
I think Burgess has been saving his legs. I mean, we've seen him run in this game more than we have all year. You know why? It's playoffs, and he knows it.
Rod Hill, who blocked the punt. That's the 8th time in his CFL career that Rod Hill has blocked a kick coming into the game. He and Scott Flagel and James Zachary shared the record for 7 blocked kicks. Robert Mims inside the 20. He's stopped by Anthony Drawhorn.
That's got to be disappointing for Coach Farragelli. I mean, he saw Terry Baker have only 20-some yards and punting against the wind. He said, well, we'll go for this fake. And then Terry changed his mind, tried to kick it.
Well, Darrell Rogers has had a difficult rookie season as the head coach of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. A lot of off-field turmoil, including an incident last week with Rod Hill that resulted in Rod Hill being fined half a game's pay. Field goal attempt by Westwood is good. 8:50 the time remaining. Winnipeg increases its lead to 17 points.
The Ottawa Sooners traveled to Saskatoon yesterday to play the Hilltops for the Canadian Junior Championship. Did not get the result they wanted, but there is a nice story surrounding this game, and it has to do with Ottawa quarterback Damon Allen, a man who clearly likes to put something back into the community. There was to be no telecast of the Junior Championship game into the Ottawa area until Damon personally donated $3,000 to cover the cost of the satellite fees, and then requested that the portion of the telecast which would normally be devoted to sponsorship credits be allotted to promoting the fundraising campaign for Ottawa's Youth Drug and Alcohol Residential Treatment Center. It's a personal project of Damon's for which he has raised $18,000 this year. Don?
Some of the off-field activities that athletes quite often do not get enough credit for, and Damon Allen is certainly to be congratulated on what he did for junior football in the city of Ottawa. Penalty flag on the play as the pass is completed to David Conrad. That victory for the Saskatoon Hilltops, the 8th time that they have won the Canadian Junior Championship. Brent Schneider passing for 472 yards in the 48-7 win. A holding call against Ottawa wipes out a good play.
Beautiful screen pass.
Ottawa number 82. First down repeated.
Jeff Smith was guilty of the holding call. Troy Westwood is keeping his kicking foot warm.
Take care. Toronto.
It's an unusual looking Nike. I could use 2 of those right now.
8:17 remaining. First and 20 from the 25-yard line. Damon Allen is throwing deep for Gordon. And I'm sure that in attempting to throw deep, Allen is having some problems with the wind. The ball is hanging up there. Gordon was in a foot race with Bobby Evans. Evans got turned around, but that pass was underthrown.
Nice route by Gordon. I mean, he's open. If Damon had time to get him the ball, but Damon Allen is on his way down about this time that Gordon went open. Tough protection on that one.
I mentioned the victory by the Saskatoon Hilltops yesterday in the Canadian Junior Final. It was a big day for football in the city of Saskatoon. The University of Saskatchewan Huskies, the defending Vanier Cup champions, defeating the University of Manitoba in the Western playoff game, 23-11. The ball is knocked away from Damon Allen. Winnipeg has got it. Paul Randolph runs it into the end zone, but they rule the play was dead at the 13-yard line. Tyrone Jones knocked the ball away from quarterback Damon Allen. He hit him on his arm, and Paul Randolph recovered. 7:38 is the time remaining. 19-2, Winnipeg leading.
Remember, that ball has to be coming forward for it to be considered a pass, and it is not even close to be coming forward because of Tyrone Jones. Then he recovers his own fumble and would have had a touchdown, but he's ruled down. Paul Randolph recovered that. So Ty Jones caused it, Paul Randolph picked it up.
1st and 10 from the 13-yard line. Swing pass intended for Robert Mims, incomplete.
Damon hasn't had much protection today. He's had a big problem, and you've got to think that the situation with Reggie Barnes being injured has been a concern. It's taken away from their plan, their game attacks, running game, play pass. It doesn't work when your running back is hurt.
Damon Allen is most effective when he has time to throw, and today he has been under constant pressure. The Blue Bombers have not allowed Damon Allen time to really set up and throw the football. Tom Burgess on 2nd down, throwing to the end zone. Rick House, touchdown. The 3rd catch of the day for Rick House. It could not come at a better time for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. With 6:52 remaining, that could pretty well put it away.
Rick House has been talking all day about that seam pattern. He said, I can beat them right down the middle. I'm man-to-man. Give me a chance. Daniel Hunter slipped. Rick House didn't. That's a touchdown.
That's the 69th catch in postseason that Rick House has made. Only Rolly Miles of the Edmonton Eskimos has ever caught more in playoff action. Rolly Miles has caught 70, and Rick House and George Reed 69. And the touchdown by Rick House and the convert by Westwood make it a 26-2 Winnipeg lead.
In all fairness to Tom Burgess, he put the ball exactly where it had to be, and he had good protection up front. Look at the linemen. They're doing a good job of him, giving him the protection that he needed to deliver the ball. Rick House has been talking to the coaches. He's been talking to Burgess all day, saying, I can get open.
Well, the fans at Winnipeg Stadium may be cold this afternoon, but they're in a festive mood with the victory almost guaranteed now with only 6:52 remaining. And they would love nothing better than to see the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in the Grey Cup game 2 weeks from today. But there remains a mighty huge obstacle to overcome at the Sky Dome in Toronto next Sunday when the Bombers travel east, or the winner of this game travels east. It looks as though it will be Winnipeg to take on the Toronto Argonauts. Draw a horn at the 10-yard line on the kickoff return. Andrew Thomas and Leon Hatziano force him down at the 21 after an 11-yard return. Rick House this year led the Bombers in pass receiving touchdowns with 7. He scores the touchdown this afternoon, his 3rd reception. He now has 69 postseason receptions. As I mentioned, Rolly Miles is the only player to ever catch more in postseason. And it looks as though Rick House, if he doesn't catch another today, will have at least one more playoff game in which to try and move ahead of Rolly Miles.
I bet you House has the record for catching the most playoff receptions from different quarterbacks. I mean, he used to catch him from Wilkie. Tom Wilkinson used to throw to him. Warren Moon used to throw to him.
Peter Brock threw to him.
Peter. Burgess.
James Ellingson makes the catch, being chased by Darrell Sampson and taken out of bounds by Sampson up at the 32-yard line.
Damon Allen's back on the 5-yard line. He just had to pick himself up. He took a tremendous hit from Michael Gray as he released the football. That crossing pattern takes time. Damon had just enough time to get the ball off. Watch Gray come loose. Quincy Williams was in there as well. Damon's on the ground. Ellingson has got a big game.
1st and 10. Fake inside, little sidearm throw to Conrad. And as Conrad is brought down by Quincy Williams, the ball comes loose, but the ground cannot make you fumble. And it was the tackle and Conrad hitting the ground that resulted in the ball being jarred loose. Darrell Sampson took a pretty good shot as he was trying to come over and make the tackle on Conrad, and Sampson is bent over. He may head off to the Winnipeg bench. It appears he's hurt, but also hurt is David Conrad.
Yeah, Conrad took a tremendous hit. That Winnipeg defense is very active.
The temperature with Chinook conditions prevailing at McMahon Stadium in Calgary is about 15 degrees. Here we're at -6 or 7 degrees with the mercury falling at Winnipeg Stadium. Blue Bombers leading 26-2, 5:41 the time remaining in the game. Steve Armitage, Chris Cuthbert, and Dan Kepley standing by to describe the action, and that game will be coming to you immediately. This one ends at Winnipeg Stadium, and of course the winner, BC at Calgary, will advance to next Sunday's Western Final against the Edmonton Eskimos. That will be the second part of our doubleheader next Sunday as the Toronto Argonauts host the Eastern Final against either Winnipeg or Ottawa. And right now it looks very much as though it is going to be the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
Well, the air wars are going on out in Calgary. We've had a ground war here. I mean, it has been a war, too. There's been some tough special teams play. Ottawa's lost their top 3 receivers and, for all practical purposes, lost their running back for this game. You got to understand that Damon Allen didn't go into this thing with all of his weapons. He's shown a lot of courage.
On 2nd down, the toss goes to Sean Daniels. He gets the first down. He put his head down and drove up across the 45. He was hauled down by Andrew Thomas.
Bill Rogers told us, he said, you know, I've never been through what I've been through this year, but I'll bet you it feels pretty good right now. It makes it all worth it when you've got a lead and you're in a playoff game. 1 game away from Grey Cup is what Darrell Rogers is thinking right now. We've got to find a way to defense all of those weapons they've got in Toronto.
We talked about Darrell Sampson taking a hit as he tried to make the tackle on the previous play. He has come out of the ball game. That's the reason Andrew Thomas is in at his halfback position. The pass is complete to Kinsley Palmer. He's upset by Greg Battle. That will be close to another first down. Kinsley Palmer, who played at the University of Manitoba, and he has some friends and family watching the action at Winnipeg Stadium. David Conrad out of the ball game. He was hurt 2 plays back.
David Conrad from Acadia. I bet he's surprised Mount Allison is in the finals. Mount Allison had a big upset, as did Queens and Laurier.
1st and 10. Pass is complete inside for Jeff Smith for another Ottawa first down to the 35. 4:08 is the time remaining. Well, when you come to a football game, why not bring a portable television? You'll have the benefit of all the replays. For those attending the Grey Cup game, you'll have the benefit of all the replays on the Jumbotron that is going to be installed for Grey Cup Sunday. James Ellingson with another catch at the 25-yard line. People, I'm sure, wonder why a team can move the ball so easily in the dying moments of a football game when they trail by 24 points.
Well, you know, football is a game of emotion. There's no denying that. This Winnipeg defense, they're so active. They go after people. Now they've dropped off. They're only sending one linebacker. They're not as emotionally keyed up now either. They know they've got the game in the bag. They're looking forward to Toronto now. They're imagining that they're tackling Toronto people instead of Ottawa.
Jeff Smith makes the catch on the sidelines. He's forced out of bounds. Daryl Sampson back in the ball game.
And Daryl Rogers knows emotion all too well. Has a lot to do with football. He's seen a lot of emotion this year.
3:05 is the time remaining. Winnipeg leads by 24. The Ottawa Rough Riders have a first down at the Winnipeg 18-yard line. They trail 26-2 with just 3:05 remaining. Bob Gordon goes wide left. Eddie Brown splits right. Damon Allen looks right, lobbing it in there, intended for Jeff Smith, I believe, and Rod Hill got back along with Daryl Sampson, and Daryl Sampson was able to knock it down.
There's the King. The King's happy with the victory. He's a Winnipeg fan.
Obviously, he picked up his tickets at the box office. Second and 10. Here comes Greg Battle. Damon Allen got it away just in time, but Greg Battle put a punishing hit on Damon Allen just as he released the football.
And if he hadn't gotten him, Alfred Payton would have, but that ball wasn't too far off. That could have been a completion. That's called ganging up on a quarterback.
It's been a tough afternoon for Damon Allen. He completed his first pass of the ball game, did not complete another during the first 30 minutes. Greg Battle, the nominee as Outstanding Defensive Player for the awards, which you will see on CBC television on the 21st of November. Pass over the middle for James Ellingson. He's hauled down by Daryl Sampson. That should be another first down, Ottawa.
There's an example of what can happen when you have protection. This guy's got all the protection he needs. But when you have protection, you got a chance to get that football off. Damon had the good protection, crossed the receivers, completed the pass.
2:36 is the time remaining. Ottawa first and goal from the Winnipeg 6-yard line. Damon Allen is pressured. Throws to the sidelines. He was looking for Brown. Incomplete.
Well, here's Damon. He's had a tough afternoon. He's wanting to get that ball into the end zone. Knows he needs protection. Play pass isn't going to help now. Yet he's sending out all his receivers. He's not going maximum protection, keeping those backs in. He's trying to do it. He's trying to do it courageously.
12 completions in 27 attempts for 139 in yardage. And many of those completions have come in the last couple of minutes. Allen throws to the goal line, and Jeff Smith makes the catch for the touchdown.
Well-executed play. It was a little bit of a pick. Running back coming out of the backfield, hoping that that linebacker would pick off the inside halfback who had to cover the slant. And Damon just took it in from over the top, threw that ball, released it high, and put it exactly where it had to be. Jeff Smith hasn't played a lot this year. We've seen him do some talented things.
I'm not so sure that Joe Farragelli didn't have a few words with Jeff Smith over on the sidelines. We caught a glimpse of it. A two-point conversion attempt. The ball is tossed out to Sean Daniels. He recovers. But Jeff Smith held his arms up, ran off the field, hanging on to the football. as he went off to the Ottawa bench, and I think Faragelli may have said to him, "What are you celebrating for? 26-8 is the score, and we've only got 2:08 remaining."
Yeah, I think he wanted to alert him that they hadn't exactly won the ball game. Ellingson's really incensed with Ty Jones. I don't know what they've said to each other, but it's taken a few people to keep Jones back out of there.
Jones pleading his innocence.
Oh, he's always innocent. Ty never does anything. His buddy Rod Hill came over and helped him out, though.
I would hardly describe Rod Hill and Tyrone Jones as buddies after some of the exchanges that took place during the past couple of weeks, some of the well-publicized turmoil within the Winnipeg Blue Bomber team.
Here's Jeff Smith coming inside, and Damon Allen really delivered the ball down low where it can't be intercepted. Two defenders collided. Michael Allen took a huge hit. They got the hands team in there, which means that they're going to be alert for the onside kick. Now, they don't want to show too much. You know, they know they're going to be playing against Toronto next week, so they're trying not to show too much, but this hands team will be an anti-onside kick. It's most of the players on Winnipeg's team that have good receiving ability, and they're covering man for man on the kickoff team so that they won't be able to get that ball back.
And because of that altercation on the touchdown and the convert, the Rough Riders kick off from the 50-yard line, and they claim they've got it, and the officials agree. It appeared to be Daniel Hunter who came up with the football, the short kickoff. Tyrone Jones still exchanging words with several members of the Ottawa Rough Riders. But it was the altercation that Jones was involved in earlier that resulted in the penalty and the ball being kicked off from the 50-yard line. And the Ottawa Rough Riders recover on the short kickoff. Daniel Hunter was over there to grab it as the ball bounced in front of a Winnipeg player and back towards Hunter.
Now, Winnipeg doesn't want to show Toronto exactly what they're going to be doing next week, so they're trying to just play vanilla defense, just straight four-man rush, drop back in the zones.
Kensley Palmer takes the pass at the 45-yard line for a gain of 3.
Kickoff went 10 yards. That's legal.
And it bounced back towards the kicking team, and Daniel Hunter was there to recover.
That's a nice technique to recover the football with your body. You've got to curl around the ball, because if you jump right on it, it'll squirt out from underneath you. Daniel Hunter did a good job.
1:52 with the clock running. The time remaining at Winnipeg Stadium. 26-8 is the score. Damon Allen throws complete to Jeff Smith. He took a big hit at the 35-yard line, but has another Ottawa first down.
Andrew Thomas, one of the sixth defensive back, came in and put a nice hit on him.
He's hurting there, baby. I think we'll make it.
Jeff Smith thinks he's got something going now. He makes his break, and bang. Way to go, Thomas.
Smith out of the ball game. Wilcox in. Allen throwing deep. It's intercepted by Rod Hill. The Winnipeg cornerback timed that one perfectly, and he simply runs it out of bounds at the 25-yard line and celebrates by throwing the ball up into the crowd.
Yeah, Darryl Rogers, he's happy with that.
Well, Darryl Rogers and Rod Hill had an altercation following the game last Sunday against the Edmonton Eskimos. Rod Hill took 4 objectionable conduct penalties in the game. He and Rogers exchanged words in the dressing room. The result, Rod Hill was fined half a game's salary as the result of the incident. But Rod Hill comes up with another interception in the dying moments of this football game. 1:12 remaining, and that should preserve the Winnipeg victory. I don't really think it was in doubt anyway.
Well, Joe Faragelli has done a pretty good job coming in, coaching the Ottawa team at midseason. They're the least penalized team. Joe's got to be disappointed. He's really faced some injuries. The top 3 receivers are gone from their lineup. didn't have his good running back in there, and consequently didn't have the protection that he would like to have afforded Damon Allen. But hey, not too many people have good protection when you face the Winnipeg Blue Bomber defense. They can cover, they can rush the passer. What else do you have to do? That's what Rod Hill said. I can cover. Those other guys will rush the passer.
Tom Burgess goes down with a first down at the 42-yard line with only 43 seconds remaining. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers shouldn't have much difficulty in running out the clock to advance to the Eastern Final next Sunday afternoon at the Sky Dome against the Toronto Argonauts.
I would suggest to Toronto that if the receivers are covered, this is playoff time. You're not going to see the Burgess you saw during the regular season. You're going to see the Burgess we saw today. He'll run with the football.
And we remind you, immediately this game is over, we'll be switching to that stadium, McMahon Stadium in Calgary, for the Western semifinal, the BC Lions and the Calgary Stampeders. You know, since Winnipeg moved to the East in 1987, they have been in the final every year. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers have not been out of the playoffs since 1979, but they have had tremendous success in the Eastern Conference, playing in the Eastern Final every year since '87, and they'll be playing again next Sunday against the Toronto Argonauts. Only 24 seconds remaining. The Ottawa Roughriders have called a timeout.
Well, you know, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers have to know something. This is a proud tradition here, and they've had success for many, many years. Before Ty Jones was born, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers were playing good football.
Over the next couple of weeks, we'll probably hear a number of Winnipeg weather jokes as well. I thought the Toronto Sun had a very good editorial a week ago when it said having the game staged outdoors occasionally in less than perfect playing conditions adds to the history of the Grey Cup game rather than tarnishing it. And the editorial pointed out that the Mud Bowl in 1950, the Fog Bowl of 1962, rather than being looked on as ugly warts, add a certain richness and character to the Cup's history. And I certainly concur with that editorial comment of the Toronto Sun. I think you would as well, Joe, although we don't want to see about minus 30 degrees and a howling north wind on the 24th.
Let's not get too fancy. We kind of like the way it was today. I think this would be perfect Grey Cup weather.
Now, you don't want to be playing the Grey Cup game on an ice floe. And that's the final play of the football game. Tom Burgess taking the snap from center and taking the final seconds off the clock. Joe Farragelli coming across the field to congratulate his counterpart, Darrell Rogers, and wish him the best of luck next Sunday when the Winnipeg Blue Bombers travel to Toronto to take on Adam Rita and the Toronto Argonauts in the Eastern Final. During the course of regular season play, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and the Ottawa Roughriders split their 4 games. But today, Damon Allen was under constant pressure, did not have some of the success he enjoyed earlier in the year, and the Ottawa Roughriders come up on the short end of a 26-8 scoreboard. Tom Burgess and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers advancing again to the Eastern Final, facing the Toronto Argonauts next Sunday at the Sky Dome.
Well, the whole story of the game was the Winnipeg defense, 6 turnovers. That was enough, and the offense came up big when they had to.
So the Winnipeg Blue Bombers will move on to the Eastern Final. The Ottawa Roughriders can begin thinking about next year, and we'll soon be transferring you to Calgary and the Western Final, the Stampeders and the BC Lions.